Chinese regime is making its way into American courtrooms by suing Americans and American companies. How can the U.S. push back against this legal warfare? NTD's Steve Lance spoke earlier with Wisconsin Congressman Scott Fitzgerald.
Congressman Scott Fitzgerald, thanks so much for joining.
You bet. It's good to be with you.
Congressman, there was a very important hearing on Capitol Hill yesterday. The Chinese Communist Party is using the American legal system to target and harm Americans and American companies. This seems really impossible at first glance. Explain for us, if you could, how this is actually happening.
The CCP and the PRC, as we say, the People's Republic of China, have begun to use and have been using our American legal system as a tool for them to influence, I guess is the best way to put it, influence not only our legal system, but to protect themselves and also, I would say, distribute some of their falsehoods about American corporations. I was very fortunate to be part of a legislative group when I was a member of the Wisconsin State Senate to travel to Beijing back in 2008. And that was at the height of American companies trying to locate and operate within China. And, you know, some of the names are Western names that you'd be very familiar with that are either retail or involved in manufacturing. Looking back on it, obviously there's kind of an exodus now. And President Trump is putting a lot of emphasis on the idea of American corporations returning to the States and engaging in manufacturing and trying to develop new factories.
We hear about the CCP going after Chinese dissidents in the United States. This is really an issue of our national sovereignty. Why is this happening, and what can ultimately be done to push back against it?
Well, we've always had, as a component of our own legal system, a way for an international company to engage in our legal system. And then vice versa, where you may have a lawsuit that's actually filed in another country overseas, and through a process of international committee, then that would be resolved. Because obviously, there are different laws in different countries, and that has to be resolved some way internationally when you operate in another country. It's not always just the home country that some of these lawsuits are based on. So along with that, it's something that has to be somewhat protected, and yet, we still have to kind of surgically try and remove all the abuse that's been going on. And so it's not going to be an easy task. And I think that is something that emerged in the testimony that we heard yesterday in the subcommittee.
You may have heard, Congressman, there is a performing arts company based in New York called Shenyun Performing Arts. Their tagline is China Before Communism, where they display traditional Chinese culture. It's really drawn the ire of the Chinese Communist Party. There have been people that have close ties to the CCP in Beijing that have filed frivolous lawsuits against this group. Some folks say that these lawsuits are, more to drag people's name through the mud, deplete them of resources, and draw up negative press. And it's not really about the results. The damage has already been done. Is there any recourse for people like this and things that, Congress can do to prevent such things from happening?
It's pretty clear what they're trying to do. They don't like the message. They think it puts, the CCP in a bad light, right? In the People's Republic of China. So what we have to do, and I think what came out of the hearing yesterday, is make sure that there are protections there whenever it is discovered kind of who filed the suit, why did they file the suit, what was the intent. Because this is like a three-pronged type of effort in which, first, legal, obviously, you're in the courtrooms, you're filing things. You have attorneys filing things on a regular basis. And then you also have kind of the public relations aspect of it, certainly, right? In that you're trying to influence through media and through their own press outreach that comes directly from the CCP. And then that third component is kind of the overall, lawfare, which is the back and forth that happens between the two countries. So, as good as President Trump has done, I think, in engaging with these other countries, specifically on the tariff front, it's still complex, and we have to do the due diligence on this stuff and make sure that we continue to push back on this, because that's what they're doing. I mean, they've come up with a system that is overarching, like I said earlier, and that was very clear in the hearing too. This is not just a one-front type of war that we're fighting here.
Maybe to the point that you were alluding to, tariffs is a way of economic warfare, one of the only things in our toolbox to really push back against China. Right.
And well, you kind of touch on one of the topics that came up yesterday, and that is, what's the legal system in China look like, right? And if American companies would file a suit there, what would happen with that? And it's obviously rigged because it's a communist party and they control everything from the top down. But specifically, what they have developed there is kind of a two-tiered system, which, as described by some of those that were sworn in and testified yesterday, is it's a criminal type of operation at one level, and at the other level, kind of a back and forth fairness type of court to resolve differences amongst the Chinese people. So, it's definitely something where one level is kind of cooked and embedded within government decisions, and the other level is a little bit more legit. But it does, and like I said, when I was there and Western corporations were locating there, and they were bending over backwards to bring in American corporations, there was always this element of well, trust us, and we'll be fair, and eventually, things will work their way out. But that hasn't always happened with some of these lawsuits.
Representative Scott Fitzgerald, we really appreciate you coming on to break some of it down with us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for taking interest in this topic.